Hello, my beautiful baddies. Welcome back to yet another episode of Your Inner Baddie Speaking. Something that's really resonated with me probably throughout most of my life, especially recently, has always been like motivational quotes or inspirational quotes or poetry, song lyrics, just quotes that really make me feel like I'm not alone, that someone else has either gone through something similar, maybe even gone through the same thing, which is kind of weird to think because sometimes we're in, our own bubble and we really think, okay, well, it's happening to me. It can't be happening to anybody else. Like, I'm alone in these feelings, this pain, this anxiety, this whatever the feeling may be. You gotta just get wrapped in like a little bubble of and if you're watching the YouTube video, you just saw my cat jump through in her little tail, so surprise guest appearance there. But sometimes we get really wrapped up in our own little world and we feel like it's just me going through this and I'm the only one feeling these feelings. But we're not. And I think inspirational quotes and all of that really makes me realize, hi Burry, it makes me realize that I am not the only one and maybe I can get through this if they got through this. Or sometimes I need motivation to just keep moving forward with the goal that I have in mind. And sometimes you need that little reality check of, you're wavering on should I move forward or it's getting kind of tough. You just need that like spark lit again. But if you ever see my Pinterest boards, oh my God, I am like the target market for inspirational quotes. I am just scrolling through my feed and it knows me now, just picking out all of these quotes that really either make me feel like my inner baddie is speaking to me or motivate me or just kind of remind me like, yeah, I'm not alone. Other people are going through this stuff too. And I'm always looking at that. I'm like, oh my God, me too. Like, oh, wow, me. Yeah, I resonate with that. And so I'm just constantly pinning them to specifically this like one board that I titled Health when I first started it. And I think it started as like things to like maintain my physical health, and then it slowly transformed into things that I do for my mental health. And a lot of these quotes really do help me during either dark times or, just extra motivation to get through some high pressure times or stressful times. But something that I can really look back and lean on when I don't necessarily have like a friend by my side to tell me, hey, like, you've got this. Sometimes I just read one of these quotes and I'm like, oh yeah, I do got this. Like, okay, I'll be just fine. Let me keep going. Let me keep moving forward. And so that's really why, like, on my Pinterest, even on the Pinterest that you'll see for Your Inner Baddie Speaking, if you ever check out that page, you'll see a lot of those quotes because I truly do feel like if it's something that resonates with me and makes me feel like I'm not alone in what I'm going through, I feel like, or I hope that at least it will resonate with somebody else and remind them of the light that's ahead or the good times that are coming or the fact that, girl, you're a bad bitch, or like whoever you are that person and you're going to make it through and you're going to do those things and you can rely on yourself to do and get through and accomplish those things. And I feel like it's very important to remind yourself sometimes that, like, hell yeah, I've got this. And so on my socials, on Your Inner Baddie socials, that's why there's a lot of quotes. I'll post things that resonate with me, and I hope that they resonate with someone else. And even though I do post a lot on Pinterest of these quotes, or, you know, I'll listen to songs and pull quotes from them because they really speak to my mood at the time, or they speak to what I'm going through. And like, sometimes you gotta sing it out, you gotta belt it out. Like, a quote alone will not do enough. But I started to realize that like, I'm not always gonna go back to my Pinterest page and like scroll through, probably at this point, the thousands of quotes that I have pinned to find the exact one that's gonna help me through whatever I'm going through at the time. And especially if I'm in a darker mental health state, or like just having more of a bad day, I'm not exactly going to take the time to go and look at a quote, or, you know, really search and put that effort in, because sometimes those days are the days where basic tasks are a lot to ask of yourself, or, you know, the day is so overwhelming and whatever's happening in my life is that overwhelming and stressful that like I just can't add another thing to my to-do list. And even though I know it will help me, it can feel more of like another thing that I have to do instead of something that's actually going to help pull me out of maybe, you know, those negative thoughts, or it's going to really motivate me. You know, sometimes you're really stressed and you need that extra push, but it can be hard to like go digging for that extra push. Sometimes you just wish like someone could just pop up, tell you exactly what you need to hear, and you're like, okay, and you keep going. So I started to, in my phone, put in several different notes of one of like daily sayings and mantras that I'll say to myself on a pretty regular basis. I mean, I won't lie. I don't look at it every single day, but not every day do I need that extra oomph of something to make it through. Or sometimes I already have that motivation in my head and I'm already telling myself those things, so I don't always need the reminder. But I do look at it frequently, and so I have like a daily mantras that I look at, and then I have like a longer note of a lot more sayings and mantras that really just speak to me on a whole other level. And there's not too many, like I think I selected between 20 and 30 that typically will resonate with something that's going on. Like I think and I'm still learning myself, but I think I've gotten to know myself on a good enough level that I know kind of what sayings I'll need for different situations. So I picked kind of the top ones that resonate with me, and I'll add to it or I'll take something off if, you know, my priorities change or what I need to hear changes. And then I also have another note that is manifestations, because I think mantras are great and quotes are great to say to yourself, or pull up and read to yourself when you need them, when you need to hear that, you know, that extra voice to just kind of push you forward, and keep that momentum going with whatever you need, whether it's momentum to pull yourself out of a bad mood, or momentum to pull yourself forward to keep working on the goal that you have, whatever it is. You know, something like that can help. But then I always like to take it a step forward and do manifestations. And then those are going to be very personalized to whatever you need at the time. or the life that you're manifesting for yourself. So like I have manifestations that range from I radiate joy and light to manifestations that are like I am financially set and I am financially independent and I no longer have to worry about finances. And I think for me, some of those will stem from, a childhood where, especially in the finances, like, don't get me wrong, like I didn't grow up necessarily, with my parents' paycheck to paycheck or anything like that. We were pretty well off in terms of we had a roof over our head, we had food on the table, we could afford certain things. But I do know when my parents divorced, obviously when two incomes become just one income and one income, it does get harder to provide for certain things that you were used to having another income to also help provide for your kids and for yourself. So there were definitely times where I don't want to say struggled, or if we did, my mom definitely didn't let on, which kudos to her. But we definitely did things to be very, very conscious of money. But I think my mom did a wonderful job in instilling fun ways to save money. Like our Saturdays would literally just be the two of us running errands. And when we would get back from running errands, we would usually, like, my mom was big on cooking. I think I've mentioned that in a previous episode, and she's where I get my cooking skills from. But usually on the weekends, we would have on a Saturday gone out to a restaurant, which was like our one day to go out to a restaurant, kind of treat ourselves. And obviously things changed, but we always made this like really fun activity of we had this little quesadilla maker at home and we would do like the kitchen sink quesadillas. So like whatever meat we had left over or veggies we had left over, we would just like saute them together, put them in the quesadilla maker, and we'd have ourselves a little quesadilla. And it was like a Saturday tradition. Like we'd do chores, we'd get back and have our little quesadilla, and we would watch whatever show or movie that we had like planned for the evening. And so while I can look back and be like, oh, we were really trying to be very conscious of what we were spending and do things together that didn't require a whole lot of money, it's definitely something that instilled in me later in life that like I want to be that provider like my mom was for me and for, my cat because she deserves the world. So she needs all of the toys, even if she doesn't play with them and she prefers boxes. But like to provide for whatever family I have now and whatever family I will have in the future. And so a dream of mine and a manifestation of mine is to be financially free, really, where I don't have to worry about any bills, any basic necessities, and I don't have to question whether if there's something that I want that's not outrageous, obviously, but if there's something that I want, I don't have to give up paying a bill in order to get it. And I think I've definitely worked really hard to get to a place where I can provide for myself. But I think, in this day and age, we're always looking for ways to become more financially free. And so why not? So that's a manifestation of mine. So it's just like taking these mantras and then doing a whole nother step to manifest your future. So the mantras and sayings for me, these Baddie mantras, are really something to remind me right now in my present what I need to hear and what I need to move forward to be able to get to those manifestations that I'm working towards. And so I just want to kind of go through a few top ones that really, really speak to me. And hopefully, I'll talk about why they're important to me, but I hope that you'll take something away from this, or maybe it will inspire you to keep some quotes or some mantras on hand for when you need them. Because life is full of ups and downs, and as much as I would love to be like, yes, I'm always positive and I'm always motivating myself to do more and work towards more and achieve my dreams, that's not always the case. There are days where I'm just not motivated and I need that extra something to get me through. And different things get us through. Maybe it's the list of things that make you happy that will reinvigorate a passion for a goal that you're working towards. Or maybe it's a mantra. So for the daily mantras that I have, the first one that I always go towards is happiness is a choice. Make sure you choose it every day. And I think that's something that I thought was more of something, I thought happiness was more of something that you just get out of life. Like, I just want to be happy. But I realized, especially after pulling myself out of that really, really low place in my life, post-divorce, and just putting the pieces back together to figure out who I am and where I want to go and who I want to be, I realized that the happiness that was coming to me as I picked myself up and slowly rebuilt my life, basically, I know that just talking to somebody will make me feel a lot better. And so reaching out to somebody and not seeing that as a sign of weakness and taking that initiative because I know it will make me feel better is choosing happiness. I'm not choosing to be, obviously the feelings were valid with whatever I was going through, but I was choosing to try to be happier, and I was choosing things that would bring me happiness, and therefore I could have more happiness in my life. And so when I wake up in the morning, even if I know that there's going to be stressful things that are going to, happen during the day, maybe it's a large work project, or maybe it's the stress of a trip coming up or anything like that, I know that starting my day with a better mindset and choosing things that will make me happy return in terms of happiness. So I've realized now that it's more of a choice and not just something that occurs because I want it to. And this is a really good mantra for me to remember that every day. Another one that really resonates with me is every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And that's something that I think both helps me appreciate how far I've come, but also reminds me that I'm always working towards becoming a better version of myself, whether that means I can be kinder to myself, or whether that means I can be kinder to others, or whether that means I can have more discipline today to do the things that I know I need to get done, or just small steps that make me a better person. I am always working towards becoming a higher version of myself, whatever that might be to me. Maybe it's becoming more well-rounded in creative aspects of my life, in terms of, just really putting my creativity into different outlets just for the fun of it, or maybe it's becoming more well-rounded with my knowledge and learning new skills, or maybe it's learning how to love myself better, or to receive love better, or just any aspect of myself where I feel like I can improve, because I feel like I'm always learning more and more about myself, and I'm always loving more and more about myself. And as I love more and more about myself and learn about myself, I realize ways that I want to improve and to become a higher version of myself, and to always strive to be a better version of myself. And so every day, like in the love letter that I've written for myself, that I say to myself every night in the mirror, I love that every morning I wake up trying to be better. And I think if I can get even 0.01% better, because some days are harder than others, I'll take it, like I will always work towards becoming better. Another one that we kind of teased this week is know your worth and act accordingly. And I think that's one that, as I've poured more and more love into myself, I've understood my worth in ways that I never did when I was younger. I think there have been different stages of my life where I felt like I really knew my worth, and I'm like, this is me, this is who I am, this is how I feel about myself, this is my worth. And then I've done certain actions or chose certain people in my life that don't align with my worth. And so this one for me is a very, very personal one of like, I need to remember my worth. And those people that don't align with my worth do not belong in my life, or those things or those actions that don't align. Like yelling does not align with my worth. Placing anger on people that's not meant for them is not holding myself to my worth. So like, it's both knowing what to let in and also acting accordingly of like, what would my higher self and what would someone like me who understands their worth do, and what would I implement in my life? And so I want to always act accordingly to remember my worth and not forget it. So that's a very important personal one for me, and one of them that I really do need a reminder of kind of often. Another one that I really, really love is, if you want to fly, give up everything that weighs you down. And this kind of goes hand in hand with like knowing your worth and acting accordingly. But sometimes there's these moments where we can really feel it in our soul that like, I'm meant for more, or I'm able to achieve my dreams and then some. I'm really in a place where I believe all of that is possible. But in order to fly to those heights, in your heart of hearts and in your gut and in your intuition that certain things aren't good for you. Like maybe it's your eating habits where I do it sometimes, I'll stress eat, or there's the opposite sometimes, especially in heartbreak, where like I don't even feel like eating. And I know that that's something that weighs me down, because if I'm not listening to my body and I'm not doing what's best for it, then I'm weighing myself down. Like I can't be that clear-headed person, at least for me. Like feeding myself really good food does translate into me thinking better, feeling better, just doing things better in my life. Or a lot of the time, this mantra will really resonate in terms of people. And sometimes you really know the next levels that you're working towards, and certain people are draining you, or they're not going to be able to come with you to that next stage. And if those things, those actions, or those people are not aligning with you, your worth, and where you want to go, you have to let go of it. Now, this can also be heartbreak. Like sometimes it's really hard to let go of somebody, but the second that you're able to let go of those things, you can reach those unimaginable heights. And the last one that's like a daily one for me is lead with a soft heart. Now, this one, again, is very, very personal to me because over the years of growing up in an inconsistent household and having a parent that, I truly believe they love me, but their version of love or what they could give to me hurt more than it provided love to me. And just a lot of environments that I've been in throughout my life have caused me to create patterns of behavior that I needed at the time to survive, but they became self-sabotaging behaviors. And a lot of those environments throughout my life and a lot of those experiences, whether it be people who treated me poorly or me giving love to people that didn't deserve it and took advantage of it, or just me treating myself poorly because I didn't understand what I needed to fuel my happiness and my life and my goals. And so all of that's to say that a lot of things that I felt I had to do to get where I am today hardened my heart. And so there's a lot of times that I've discovered, especially in relationships, that I have led with a closed off, hardened heart. And I can be quick to think of the worst case scenario, or I can be quick to be defensive when someone doesn't truly mean something that's gonna hurt me, or doesn't mean that they're going to abandon me. So I don't have to immediately shut off or, close myself off to other people or other situations because they're not actually doing me harm. That might have been the positions I was in when I was younger, but it doesn't mean I'm in the same position now. And I realized a lot of the behavior was causing my unhappiness. And so I would rather lead with a soft heart, believe in the good in people, lead with love before being defensive or being guarded. I would rather lead with providing joy into somebody else's life because that makes me happy and it makes others happy. And I'd rather do that than be closed off and be hardened to the world and just expect the worst. Because the more and more I was doing that, the more and more the universe was giving that back to me. And so I have to remember, and there's a quote that I really love, which is, on days that your trauma feels louder, or I guess maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but it's something along the lines of, on days where your trauma feels louder than your love, remember that your trauma is not who you are. And I do have to remember that from time to time, that the things that got me here and the experiences I've had are not louder than the love that I want to give. And so I want to make sure that I lead softly, both for myself and for others. And a couple of just overall mantras that I really, really love. One being one that's already been on the Instagram page for Your Inner Baddie Speaking, but this one gets me through every dark time. It just speaks to me on levels that I didn't even know a quote could. And that is, the pain you are feeling cannot compare to the joy that is coming. In any dark time that I've had, especially when I am going through a depressive episode, which is what I call my depression when it gets really, really bad, and it's like I'm just almost being dragged down by my mind and trapped in my mind. And that's when I call a depressive episode. And when I'm in that state, I cannot see outside of it. It's like I have blinders on. It's as if my depression has taken over, and I don't understand the bigger picture. I don't see that there's anything beyond the pain that I am feeling. And when I first came across this quote, it was actually right fresh during the divorce. And it hits a part of my heart that speaks to, I have no idea what is ahead. And it could be the best things ever. And I've talked about this before, but it's true. I mean, now that I feel like I'm on the other side of that, where I am on the other end of I hope is the darkest time of my life, I understand that joy can come out of the worst thing that I thought would happen to me, or there can be happiness outside of what is my reality in the moment. And so knowing when I get down or when I get into a bad place that what I'm feeling right now does not define the moments ahead, and it doesn't stop me from having joyful moments or happy moments or just good times in the future. And so I usually look at that one quite a bit. I've even posted it on sticky notes on my mirror in my bathroom because I love to see it. And whether it's a small bad moment or a big bad moment, that one always speaks to me. Another one that, like, I'm not like a super religious person, or really could qualify myself as a religious person because I wasn't raised that way. And I didn't really, I guess, explore that part of life. So this does mention the devil. This is not like me trying to scare anyone, but it speaks to me because it's more of like, it's a presence that it wants to stop you from living your best life. And so the quote is, "Keep your eyes forward when the devil keeps asking you to look at your past. There's something in your future he doesn't want you to see." And when I read this quote, I got chills because as someone who struggles with anxiety and especially depression, like focusing on the past and focusing on trauma from before and focusing on a lot of things that can be negative, or looking back at, well, I can't do this because I went through this, or I'm so bogged down from pain from heartbreak, or pain from a certain experience, or pain from, my childhood, that I can't get some future that I would like to have. And this is something that I just feel like is so true. And, we're always told, like, focus on the present, don't focus too heavily in the past because you won't really feel like you're moving forward. But I think this adds another dimension. If you're so focused on your past, it's because something either within you or something around you is pulling you backwards instead of propelling you forwards. And so sometimes when I feel like I'm either going back into negative habits, or maybe some ways that I used to approach situations come back up and it makes me focus on my past. Yes, I think there are things to work through, but I think sometimes this can be true where it's almost like I'm causing myself to stay in my past. And if I don't let go of it, I can't see the future ahead. I can't be in that future. And I would much rather be in those happy future things than stuck in the possible trauma of things that I've gone through. And yes, there is something to be said that obviously your past defines you. Like, I would never trade what I've gone through because it made me the person that I am today. But I also know the person that I can be and the person that I'm working towards and the future that I'm working towards. And I'd rather focus on that than any BS in my past. Like, I don't know about you, but I would love to see the promise of tomorrow rather than being stuck in the hopelessness of yesterday. Another thing that kind of ties into that of like not being stuck in your past and knowing that the future can be very promising is the comeback is always stronger than the setback if you let it. So I truly feel like the setback where I wanted to take my life was so overwhelming for me. However, the comeback of where I am now, talk about it being stronger than the setback. I mean, I feel as if now the possibilities are endless. The happiness that I can have is endless. The opportunities and the blessings and the miracles that can come into my life are endless. But it did take the setback to have the comeback. So I don't want to downplay the fact that sometimes it really does take us getting to a place that we don't think we can crawl out of to have the biggest almost like reaction that pushes us in the right direction, because it's all of what you make of life. You can either sit in that and stay in that place that might make you miserable, or you can take that pain, you can take all of that and you can use it to push yourself forward and to do all of those things that you know you can achieve. One I really like, especially in terms of career or just in terms of like overcoming imposter syndrome, because I think that's something that a lot of us might struggle with. I've struggled with it, especially in my career, of thinking like, do I belong in this area right now? Do I belong in this position? Do I belong at the table, you know? And this quote is, if you weren't ready for it, you wouldn't have the opportunity. And I have taken that to heart, where if I'm presented with something that seems like, holy shit, like I want that so badly, and I know that that's what I want my future to be and how I want my future to unfold, but I'm doubting myself, F that. Do not doubt yourself. You were meant for that opportunity. If it's your dream job, if it's your dream relationship, if it's something in your life that you've wanted or you do like, or you want, you deserve it. You can have it. So I think a lot of times in especially career, people can tend to doubt themselves. Like if it's a position that they feel as if, you know, they've always wanted it, but they're not quite sure if they're ready yet. Like I know in talking with friends of mine, family of mine, that like, especially when you get to the director level, like that can really mess with you and you're like, do I deserve this seat at the table? And if you weren't ready for it, you would not have been even like reached out to about the job. You would have never interviewed for the job. Like that job would never have come across your plate. And so I think it's helpful, especially for me, if we start thinking about like, okay, if this opportunity came to me, then it means I'm ready. It might scare me. It might, you know, be nerve-wracking, but it's exciting because that's what you want in your life and you deserve the things that you want. And two others that like really resonate with me are, you can't heal if you pretend you're not hurt. And the other one is, I have a life full of miracles ahead of me. And the first one about you can't heal if you basically pretend that you're not hurting from something. And I think this is something that I had to take to heart, because for a long time I hung on to anger and I hung on to a lot of emotions that I think at the time when I was really, really experiencing them as they came up, I didn't understand, or I didn't believe that I could process those emotions at the time that they were happening. And so it kind of built up, and I didn't know how to either process them, or I just didn't want to feel like I was as hurt as I truly was. Now something that I do is just I embrace the way that I'm feeling and I process it, and I don't sugarcoat it anymore. I'm not like, oh, I shouldn't be angry, or oh, I shouldn't feel this way and therefore I won't process it. Instead, I'm like, all right, you know what? I am really that sad, or I am really angry right now, and I'm going to figure out a way to deal with it, because you really can't move on until you process it, and you can't heal until you've processed it. Like, I didn't even know I had depression or felt depressed until I went to college, and it hit me when there was a 3-day period where I literally did not want to leave my dorm room. Like, I was in bed in the dark, like I didn't want to do anything, go anywhere, talk to anybody. And so that really sparked me going to see my first real therapist. I call her my real therapist because the first one that I tried was through my mom's work, and that's a whole story, but did not like that experience. So this is the one that I really attribute to actually tackling some of the things that I was going through. And I think when I finally went to therapy and understood, like, oh my God, all of this stuff during when I was growing up, I didn't deal with at all. So I didn't process anything. So it all, of course, came back to me and hit me like a ton of bricks, you know, like it just got worse and worse, because those feelings will then compound with other feelings from other events in your life and other things that come up. And then suddenly you have to heal from like a lot, like a lot. So now I really remind myself with this mantra of like, if I don't accept the fact that I'm hurting right now, I can't ever move past it. And the last one is really a lot more positive, but it's about accepting that miracles and good things are going to come into my life and that I should expect them. And I think it's really taking all of those, being in the present moments, being in the present and reading all of these mantras and getting through that day to day, but also understanding that to take all of that to heart and to act on all of that leads to better things in my future and leads to miracles, really. Like, I consider the fact that I am happy, healthy, and have the life that I do right now truly a miracle, from where I was 3 years ago thinking that the end of the road and taking my life was better than moving forward. So I consider that a miracle. I consider still having life a miracle. And I just think it's really beneficial to not only remind yourself of certain hard stuff, but having mantras that remind you that good shit is coming, that miracles will happen, and they should happen for you. You deserve them coming into your life. And so I hope that by sharing all of these mantras that really speak to me, that maybe some will speak to you, or maybe it will help you look for what you need to hear and look for things that resonate with you, so that way when you are having either a tough day or you just need a reminder, that you're able to look at these and move forward how you would like to move forward. And maybe you'll make a little list on your notes app like I do, because that really does help me when I'm in a bind, because who doesn't have their phone on them all the time, right? So hopefully some of these resonated with you. And with that, say it with me, I'm a fucking baddie. All right. Love y'all till next time.